Hi guys, welcome back. So in today's video we're going to be installing a Racingline intake to our Mark 8 Golf R. But before we jump into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, also notification bell, then you won't miss if our new videos go live. So this is actually episode 2 in our Racingline product install videos. If you remember, episode 1 we installed all of the engine bay dress up parts like the wheel stud and all those kinds of parts. This is episode 2. We're going to be installing the R600 intake and the intake hose as well. So obviously if you're familiar with some of our videos, you would have seen the R600 intake is hugely popular on customer builds, makes really good power, looks a lot better, and also sounds really good as well. So we're going to be testing the R600 intake, see if it does or doesn't make power. And to do that, we're going to be, first of all, benchmarking the standard intake, and then fitting the Racingline R600 and testing that, so we'll be able to see what the power and torque differences are. But first things first, let's get the car on the dyno, see what power it makes with the standard intake, and then get the car in the workshop and we'll talk you through the intake in comparison to the standard one. Okay, so we're in the workshop. We've got both air intakes out in front of us, so we're just going to talk you through them. And as you know, obviously the Mark 8 is very similar to the Mark 7 in terms of the air intake in the engine bay, so it has some of the same limitations. So first off, the front air duct going from the ambient air down to the airbox is only actually using one intake on one side, and there is actually two in the factory intake, but one of them is blocked off, and that limits the performance potential, especially at higher outputs. And then from the factory air duct then goes into the factory airbox, and as you can see, the intake has to go down and then has to go 90 degrees and then a further 90 degrees to then go down to the turbo intake and then into the turbo. So it has to bend quite a few times, and it's got a relatively small sort of filter in there. And then another restriction is you've got the factory intake hose. So this is like a corrugated plastic item, obviously externally, but also internally as well. So it sort of slows down the air as it goes through there. So there's a few things that can definitely be improved. And as we know from the R600, it does work quite well. So with the R600, it integrates the front duct into the airbox, and it actually uses both intake slots at the front of the vehicle, so you get the maximum amount of fresh air, and then does away with a panel filter element, and then goes to the Racingline R600 foam filter. And this has a massive surface area compared to the factory item, so that will reduce restrictions. And then the factory intake hose is replaced with a nice silicone item, so this is a bit of a bigger bore than the factory item, a lot smoother internally. And then this thing goes down to the 90-degree elbow, which is also a larger diameter than the factory item. So as we've seen with other hoses, we expect some pretty good gains with the intake hose, especially with the R600 intake fitted as well. So let's get this fitted, head onto the dyno and see what kind of power it makes. Okay, so we finished off dynoing the Golf R. We've got some exciting road graphs to show you guys. So the car dynoed standard with the standard intake, making around 335 horsepower and about 443 newton meters of torque. So obviously quite strong for a standard car. And then with the R600, it made 343 brake horsepower and then 450 newton meters of torque. So that's around an 8 brake horsepower gain and around a 7 newton meter gain as well at the peak figures. But as always, there's more to that story. Obviously underneath sort of like the peak there, you got some max gains as well. So around 6,200 RPM, you're gaining around 18 brake horsepower and about 19 newton meters of torque as well. So yeah, the Racingline intake definitely works on the Mark 8 Golf R and obviously sounds really good as well. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video and see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then please give us a thumbs up. If you'd like to watch other videos of ours that YouTube thinks you'll like, then click up here. If you'd like to watch some other videos that we have in the same playlist, then click here. And obviously if you enjoyed the video, then we really appreciate if you gave us a subscription. And then obviously you'll be updated when other videos of ours go live, and you can do that quite easily by clicking here. Hope to see you soon.